For as long as we've looked up at the night sky, the moon's been right there. It feels familiar, right? But how well do we really know our closest neighbor in space? I think you'll be surprised. So let's get into it. We're going to decode the moon, from its oldest mysteries all the way to what our future on its surface might look like. Okay, let's kick things off with something I bet every single one of you has seen. You know that moment? The full moon is just coming up over the horizon, and it looks massive, just huge, hanging there. So what's the deal? Is it actually closer to us then? Well, the short answer is nope, not at all. That giant moon you see is a really powerful illusion, something our own brains cook up. It's called, fittingly, the moon illusion. See, it's all about context. When the moon is low, you've got trees, buildings, maybe some mountains to compare it to. Your brain sees all that stuff, knows it's far away, and then sees the moon behind it and goes, whoa, that thing must be absolutely enormous. But then later in the night, when it's high up in that big, empty sky, there's nothing to compare it to, no frame of reference, so it looks smaller. It's just a classic case of our minds playing tricks on us. The moon's size isn't the only trick it has up its sleeve. I mean, for thousands of years, people have looked up and seen a face, or other figures, right? And all those dark splotches. So let's dig into that. How did we go from seeing faces in the moon to understanding what's really going on up there? And wow, the stories people have come up with are just incredible. All over the world, different cultures created these amazing tales to explain what they were seeing. You've got Germanic folklore, which talks about a man banished to the moon for gathering sticks on the Sabbath. Then there's the famous Chinese legend of the moon goddess Chang'e, or an Indian tale about a super generous jade rabbit that Buddha put there. It's amazing, right? It's really all about us trying to find a connection, to see something familiar in that face in the sky. So what are we really looking at? Well, science has a name for these dark spots. Lunar Maria. That's Latin for lunar seas. And yeah, for a long time, astronomers actually thought they were oceans. Turns out they're not wet at all. They're these huge, flat plains of dark volcanic rock. Basically, hardened lava that flooded gigantic craters billions of years ago. So that face in the moon, it's really a map of the moon's incredibly violent volcanic history. And hey, speaking of a violent past, you think volcanoes are dramatic? The story of how the moon itself was born is, well, it's as epic as any of those ancient myths. It also explains a really bizarre mystery, why the moon has two completely different faces. Okay, so here's the leading theory. It's called the giant impact hypothesis. And honestly, the name says it all. Picture this. About 4.5 billion years ago, when the Earth was just a baby, a planet about the size of Mars, scientists call it Theia, came screaming in and just smashed right into us. The impact was unbelievable. It basically vaporized Theia and blew a huge chunk of Earth's outer layer, its mantle, right out into space. All that hot debris went into orbit, and over time, gravity pulled it all together to form our moon. And here's a super cool detail. This whole thing explains why the moon's iron core is so small. Most of the heavy iron from both planets sank into Earth's core after the collision. But that crazy cosmic birth story left us with another huge puzzle, because for all of human history, we only ever saw one side of the moon. When we finally sent probes around to the far side, it looked completely different. So the question became, why? Why does the moon have two faces? And this image just shows it perfectly. Look at that. On the left, that's the side we always see, the near side, with all those big, dark, smooth patches. But on the right, that's the far side. It's almost all bright highlands, just absolutely covered in craters. Barely any of those dark Maria at all. The difference is just night and day. And this mystery had scientists scratching their heads for a long, long time. So a newer theory suggests the answer lies in another giant impact. This time, a huge asteroid slammed into the moon's south pole, creating this enormous crater. The impact was so big, it sent a massive shockwave of heat through the moon's guts. Now, this wave of heat basically pushed a whole bunch of special, heat-producing radioactive elements over to the near side. Scientists have a nickname for this stuff, creep. And all that creep, concentrated on one side, acted like a giant heater under the surface, fueling all the volcanic eruptions that made the dark lava plains we see. And just like that, the mystery of the moon's two faces might just be solved. Okay, so the moon has this wild, dynamic past. It's definitely not just some boring, static rock. But what about right now? Is it dead? Not by a long shot. You just have to listen closely. It's a world of whispers, of subtle ongoing activity. This is one of my favorite facts.
Every single astronaut who's ever walked on the moon, all 12 of them, said the same thing. When they got back inside the lunar lander and took their helmets off, the moon dust that got tracked in had a smell. A really distinct smell, like spent gunpowder. And it's not just the smell. The moon is still physically active. It actually shakes. It has these little thermal moonquakes. Now, it's not like earthquakes here with tectonic plates. It's because the temperatures are so extreme. The surface gets cooked and then deep frozen, over and over. And that makes the ground literally expand and shrink, causing the crust to crack and groan. It's kind of like an old house settling, but on a planetary scale. And get this, the moon isn't even staying put. It's actually leaving us. Very, very slowly, but it's happening. It's drifting away from Earth by about 1.5 inches every year. To put that in perspective, that's about the same speed your fingernails grow. Kind of weird to think about, right? So why is it drifting away? It's all part of this constant gravitational dance between us. You know, we tend to think of the moon just circling a perfectly still Earth, but that's not really how it works. In reality, Earth and the moon are both orbiting a shared center of gravity, a point called the barycenter. And because Earth is so much bigger, that point is actually inside our planet, about 1,700 kilometers down. So what that means is, as the moon goes around, it's actually making the Earth do this tiny little wobble. It's a true partnership. So the moon definitely has an effect on us, but the streak goes both ways. We've started to leave our own mark on the moon. And I'm not just talking about footprints and flags, I'm talking about science experiments and, yep, even golf balls. Okay, this is seriously cool. One of the most important things we left up there are these special panels, like mirrors. There are 5 of them. Scientists here on Earth can shoot a laser beam at them, and when the light bounces back, they time its round trip. And by doing that, they can measure the distance to the moon with insane precision, down to just a few millimeters. And what's really amazing is that these are the only science experiments from the entire Apollo program that are still working today. All right, pop quiz time. Thanks to one of the Apollo astronauts, the moon is officially the most exclusive golf course in the solar system. So, simple question, how many golf balls are sitting on the lunar surface right now? The answer is 2, just 2. A lot of people get this wrong and say 3, but here's what happened. On Apollo 14, back in '71, astronaut Alan Shepard smuggled a 6-iron head and attached it to a tool he had. His first swing, he kind of duffed it, but then he connected with 2 balls, and in his own words, they went for miles and miles and miles. Okay, so we've gone from golf balls to gardens. Seriously. Because the next big chapter in our story with the moon isn't just about visiting. It's about seeing if we can actually live there. We are literally sowing the seeds for a brand new age on the moon. Just look at this. It might not seem like much, but this picture is incredible. For the very first time ever, scientists managed to get plants to grow in real moon dirt, soil that was brought back by the Apollo astronauts. These tiny little sprouts, this is a huge, huge step if we're ever going to have self-sustaining bases or colonies off-planet. But we should probably hold off on planning our lunar farms just yet, because the experiment also showed just how hard this is going to be. The plants really struggled. They were small, they grew slowly, and they were clearly stressed out. And it's because moon soil, which is really called regolith, is nothing like soil here. It has almost no nutrients, and it's full of tiny, sharp bits of glass. It's just not friendly stuff for plants to grow in. So when you think about it, the moon's journey is pretty wild. It started as a piece of our own planet, blasted into space. It became the backdrop for our myths, and then the stage for humanity's first steps into the cosmos. It's always been this kind of mirror, reflecting where we came from and where we could go. It told us the story of Earth's past. So the big question now is, as we get ready to go back, what is it going to teach us about our future?